Greetings, folks. Welcome to another episode of Campfire Stories. Gino here, your tour guide into the strange, the unknown, the terrifying. Tonight, I submit another story to the Grimm Society. The Mountain Cabin. Does isolation terrify you? Don't worry, you're not alone. My girlfriend and I had just broken up. Let's just say I got caught doing something I probably shouldn't be doing. It was messy to say the least. All of our friends were getting involved. It was getting crazy. Winter break had just started at the university, so I thought I would get out of town. I just needed to unplug. No phone, no social media, no nothing. I knew the perfect place. My grandfather had a cabin in the mountains. It was about a 5-hour drive, but there was no way anyone was going to bother me up there. I packed up my snow gear and about a week's worth of clothes, grabbed Jocko, that's my golden retriever, loaded up the car, and Jocko and I got on the road. The trip was pretty smooth, but when we started up the mountain, the snow really started to come down. It got so bad my car was slipping around on the road. It was an intense drive, but I finally made it to the only small town in the area. Calling it a town is probably exaggerating a bit. There's a post office, general store, and gas station. I pulled into the general store. I stocked up on a week's worth of groceries, well, as close to groceries as a college student can come. I went up to pay. There was a portly fellow at the register. As he was ringing me up, he asked where I was headed. I told him the Thomas cabin off Grizzleback. He whistled and said, "That's quite a way out there. Just a word of advice. Keep an eye out for those damn witches up there." I chuckled a bit, shot him a funny look. He seemed to get pissed or offended or something. Laugh at me if you want, but folks have seen them. There's strange stuff going on up there. I paid and thanked him and exited the store. I thought to myself, next time he'll warn me of Bigfoot. I pulled through the gas station and filled up. I also grabbed 2 5-gallon cans of gas for the Jenny. Me and Jocko headed out on our slow-going trip to the cabin. We got to the cabin in one piece. It was a simple A-frame with a bedroom loft. The power lines didn't run out this far, so you have to use a generator. The heat was a wood-burning stove, but there was a large fireplace as well. I let Jocko out for a run in the snow, and boy was it coming down now. It was getting dark and the wind was picking up. It was bone-chilling cold. I got the generator fired up, grabbed a load of firewood, and headed inside. I loaded the stove and the fireplace and got the fires going. The lights in the cabin constantly dimmed and brightened due to running off the Jenny. That combined with the flickering light from the fireplace made for a very eerie ambience. I unloaded the car. Jocko was already laid out on the couch in front of the fireplace. It was starting to warm up in the cabin. I took off my snow gear and hung it up. I made myself a few sandwiches and a bowl of soup and fed Jocko. After I finished eating, I went over to mess around with the ham radio. That thing's been out here as long as I can remember. There wasn't a TV in the cabin, and good luck with AM/FM. But there were many ham operators in the area. I fired it up and started searching. After a short bit, I found an active channel broadcasting some old blues music. Not usually my cup of tea, but it seemed to suit my mood at the moment. I cracked a beer and went about cleaning the cabin up a bit. It looked like no one had been up here in a while. I spent the next few hours getting the cabin in order for my stay, and Jocko helped by holding down the couch. When I was done, I was beat. Between the last few days and the drive, I was ready for bed. Got suited up, grabbed a flashlight, and went out to cut off the generator. When I opened the door, I was kind of shocked. The wind was really whipping up and the snowfall had picked up as well. At this point, I couldn't even see the car. It was full on white out. I trudged my way over to the shed, kicked on the flashlight, and shut off the generator. I grabbed another load of wood, exited the shed into a stiff, cold wind and blizzard-like snowfall. Once inside the cabin, I threw a fresh log on the fire and stacked the rest of the wood off to the side. I didn't feel like going back out in the snow for more wood, so I let the wood-burning stove die off and slept on the couch in front of the fireplace. Jocko was a bit restless through the night. The sounds of the snowstorm and snow sliding off the roof were all new to him, but I slept great. The snowstorm passed at some point in the night, and the following morning was sunny, but man, did that storm drop a lot of snow. I made me and Jocko some breakfast, ham steaks and eggs. After breakfast, I suited up and headed outside. I had a few projects I needed to take care of. First things first, I had to shovel some walkways to the shed in the car. Not that I was going to be able to go anywhere, even if I wanted to. I shoveled the snow and dug my car out. I'd left a few things in the car the night before. After I was done with all that, I stocked the cabin with firewood. I didn't want to run the generator yet. I wasn't sure how long I'd be stuck up here. So I grabbed a book off the shelf and laid on the couch to read a bit. A few hours went by and the sun was starting to set. I went out and started the generator. When I returned to the cabin, I turned on the ham radio. I guess it was classical music tonight. I fed Jocko and went in the kitchen to make myself some dinner. After that, I laid out on the couch to read some more. The book was a murder mystery. It had me kind of hooked. About 30 minutes later, the music cut out. A man's voice came across the radio. "Howdy y'all, Jammer here. Just sending out an update on the White Witches. I personally had some sightings over the past few days. I've had many reports flooding in as well, many more than usual. Keep your eyes open, folks. If there are any visitors or newcomers on the mountain, just a word of advice. If you see a beautiful young woman in a white gown, run. The lovely ladies are witches. We've had a few people go missing on the mountain since they were first spotted. Anyway, back to the classical." The music came back on. I chuckled. Now I know where the townie got his crazy story about witches. I went back to my book. I must have dozed off. I was startled awake by Jammer's voice coming across the radio. "Hey guys, Jammer. I think I'm in trouble. They're here. The White Witches. I went to grab my hunting rifle and it was gone. I'm going to try to find a place to hide. If I disappear, I just want someone out there to know what happened." "That's enough of that," I said out loud. I got up and switched off the radio. I went out and cut off the generator. When I came back in the cabin, I locked the door. I didn't believe in witches, but that broadcast was kind of creepy. Regardless, I slept great that night. The following day, I had a lazy kind of morning. I really didn't do much of anything. That afternoon, I took Jocko for a long walk. When we got back, I got the power on and made dinner for Jocko and myself. I hopped on the ham to see who was out there. I found someone broadcasting some kind of serial show. It was a detective whodunit type of story. Entertaining enough. When the story ended, a voice cut in. "Hey guys, just a public announcement. I heard about Jammer's strange broadcast last night and swung by his place to check on him. His truck was there, but he wasn't. If anyone sees him, just ask him to contact me. I just want to know he's okay." Well, that'll do it for me, everyone. Sleep tight. I shut off the ham and tried to read for a bit, but I couldn't get that story about Jammer out of my head. Maybe something was going on up here. Either way, I thought it would be best if I headed out tomorrow. The generator began to sputter out. It dawned on me that I forgot to fill it today. It was all right. I could go to bed. That night, Jocko was restless. He was up and down all night. I couldn't hear anything or see anything out the windows, but my nerves were shot. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night. As the sun came up, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I packed everything up and went out to load the car. When I opened the door to the cabin, my heart stopped in my chest. The hood of my car was open. I dropped my bags and ran to the car. Jocko ran out the door behind me. All of the wires under the hood were ripped out and shredded. Who could have done this? What could have done this? Suddenly, loud chanting erupted from the woodline. Jocko's hair went up, and he began growling and barking. The chanting sounded like many female voices coming from all around the woodline in perfect unison. A beautiful young woman, probably early 20s, wearing a white gown, stepped out of the woodline. She looked right at me and smiled. At this time, at least a dozen more stepped out. It's them. The White Witches. They're real. Jocko snarled and bolted at the nearest one. I yelled for him to stop, but he continued. As Jocko charged, all the witches faded into the woodline, but the chanting continued. Jocko followed into the woods. I could hear the sounds of women's laughter, then several loud yelps. It was Jocko. The chanting continued the whole time. I'd never felt fear like this in my entire life. At first it was paralyzing, but then my legs, they just started moving. I was running. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I had to get out of there. From behind me, I could hear the chanting and laughing. I turned my head to look over my shoulder. I could see the White Witches darting in and out of the woods, but keeping pace with me as I ran down the driveway. When I got to the road, I turned toward the county road, the one that led into town. It was so many miles, but if I could just get to the county road, I could flag a car or something. As I ran down the side of the road, I could hear the witches in the woods. I ran as long as my body would go, and as I did, the sounds from the witches became few and far between. I must have blacked out and collapsed at some point. I was awakened by a state trooper. He got me back down the mountain to emergency services. I later found out that I nearly froze to death. As it turned out, everyone in that area of the mountain had disappeared that week. I was the only one that survived. To this day, I have no idea why they let me live. Hey folks, thanks for listening to the end. If you liked the story, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to join the Grimm Society, hit that subscribe button. If you have any stories to share, you can submit them to duckbrothersgrimm@gmail.com.